Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Viewers' Voices, the show on which I comment on the comments I have received from people who have been kind enough to watch my videos on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. So let's have a look at the last Friday video, which is always about my world, my week, and my thoughts and all the rest of it. There's a comment from Patricia Wask, a great regular, a great woman. We have become friends and we communicate outside the YouTube world. And she says that I'm doing great and I should be patient. She's talking about my weight loss, which I constantly harp on about my weight. And it's worth harping on about weight problems, especially at this age. I'm 65. Even when you're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, being overweight is dangerous for health. Let's even forget about the vanity aspect. So I am taking it seriously. And of course, you need to take it more seriously as you get older. Because, my friend's doctor once said that when you're in your 60s, you're like in a sniper's alley, where you're running down this alley, struggling, staggering, trying to get to the end, and there's bullets are coming at you potentially from every direction. And he says if you can get to the end of that alley unscathed or not too dangerously injured, that you're probably going to have a good old age. So I'm still in that alley and I'm dodging bullets, and some of them are kind of grazing me, and some of them are missing me, and I'm trying my best. So, Patricia, thanks for the encouragement. Then there's one from someone called Ossi Inyomo, who also says that I'm doing great, and the target should be my profile picture. And Ossi says, you can do it. And I think what is meant by the profile picture is that rather nice picture of me with a short blonde wig, which makes me look younger. And I was, of course, slimmer then, so my face is also in better shape. So I think Ossie is trying to say that if I can get back to that, I will have done particularly well. Thank you. So let's move on to the video that came out last Wednesday. And Wednesday's videos are always about Nigeria, called Nigeria Unfiltered. And there's usually some complaint or the other about the system, the society, the government. And last week, or that's this week, I can never figure out, is Sunday the beginning of a new week or the end of an old week? Anyway, last Wednesday, I talked about the end of the state of emergency in Rivers, which is the part of Nigeria I come from. We have a federal system like America, so sometimes if you need to visualize those of you who are not Nigerian, if you need to visualize what our states are all about, I come from Rivers, which is the capital of the oil industry. So we're kind of like Texas. Well, I mean, nowhere near as developed, but that's the vibe, is oil, Rivers. And where I live in Abuja is like London. It's the capital city. And then, but Lagos, which almost everybody knows about. People know more about Lagos than they do about Abuja. Lagos, in a way, is the beating heart of Nigeria. That's the commercial capital. Where Abuja is the political capital, Lagos is the commercial capital, the fashion capital, the arts and creative capital. That's where all the banks have their headquarters, and so Lagos is the most famous part of Nigeria. Well, it was the capital city for a very long time until the capital was switched to Abuja. So, hey, that's my little history lesson about Nigeria. So, I come from Rivers State, where the oil comes from the whole Niger Delta area in the south. But Rivers is the most important state in that area. And last March, the President Tinubu and one of his cronies, who used to be our governor, Nyesom Wike, decided to declare a state of emergency in Rivers, and for no good reason, quite frankly, simply because they had a problem with the governor who followed Wike. Like I always say, there's never any time to really explain these things on YouTube. So if you want to know the history, either scroll back and listen to my old videos or Google it. So let's see what people said about my video last Wednesday, which was a complaint about the state of emergency, which has now just been lifted by the president. And my anger is that it should never have been imposed in the first place. So we have JJ Lionhead saying Tinubu and Wike are only interested in looting the state funds of Rivers. Now, Rivers people are in the pockets of Tinubu and Wike. This is my feeling exactly. They claimed that, the president claimed that he imposed the state of emergency because there was anarchy and political tension and he had to do something. Actually, I think they just wanted to put their hands in our wallets. And they have done this successfully for 6 months. They have received so many insults and so much, contempt for that action that I think they realized that it was best to end it after 6 months, which they did last Wednesday. And so apart from the fact that I complained about the whole situation, even though it is now over, I also, cast some shade on the governor who was suspended in March and was reinstated last Wednesday. And, I don't have much respect for him because I don't like the way he managed the conflict. He could have been a lot more courageous. He could have been an inspiring leader. He could have put his foot down. He could have given President Tinubu a bloody nose. But for some reason, politicians in Nigeria almost always disappoint. Apart from Peter Obi, the former governor who is the main opposition leader, whom I'm rooting for in terms of the next presidential election in 2027. Well, so far, he hasn't let me down, I guess. So, hoping that he proves to be the exception to the rule. I just think he needs to be more aggressive, but that's another story for another day. So, we have JJ sharing my view that Tinubu and Wike only did the state of emergency nonsense in Rivers State for corrupt financial motives. Then there's someone called Ubi Igwe, who said, thanks, Donu, for always speaking truth to power. I hope Rivers people will stand up and take back their states come 2027. The destiny is in their hands, not in the hands of one man called Nyesom Wike and not President Tinubu. Well, here, Obi, thank you so much for wishing us well and wishing us agency and control over our destiny. I also pray that we are able to take our state back from this cabal in 2027 and find leadership that really cares about us. Because even the current governor who's just been reinstated, he's basically only interested in his own personal situation and in his own interests. And I don't want him. I'd rather have someone else. Honestly, Governor Fubara, the one who was suspended, when he came back on Wednesday or Thursday after 6 months of being humiliated and pushed aside, instead of some sort of passionate, inspiring speech that would make Rivers people feel a little bit healed after the embarrassment they've been put through, he issued this really sycophantic, stupid statement praising his oppressors and our oppressors. So, not interested, very, very unhappy. And let's look at another reaction to last Wednesday's video. And it's from Kingsley Alarichi. And it says, Madam, I agree with you. No thanks to Tinubu for undoing the criminal acts he imposed on Rivers State and the people. The state still remains captured in the intervening 6 months of Tinubu's sole rulership by proxy. What he means by that, he's referring to the military administrator that President Tinubu imposed on us. And, there's a lot of question marks around what that guy did during the 6 months he was in charge. Lots of suspicions of chronic corruption. Unfortunately, Nigeria is not the kind of country where even if you are caught with your hands in the till, red-handed, it's not the kind of country where people who have friends in high places or who are partners of the government in power, such people they don't get punished in Nigeria. So even if it turns out that the military administrator was indeed a huge thief, he's going to go scot-free. That's life. The only people who can get you are enemies who come afterwards. And I'm not holding my breath on that anytime soon. So Kingsley Alerechi concludes by saying, let's see how Fubara hopes to function under this captured climate in the state. What he means by that is that the reason they agreed to reinstate Fubara, the governor who had been suspended, was because he basically caved in and offered them everything they wanted. He did not take a single principled or courageous stand. So he's now a puppet. So I'm just wondering how this is going to go in terms of the interests of the people he's supposed to be governing. I mean, sure, I'm sure it will work out great for him and his wife and his friends. But what about the rest of us? Hey, very, very, very unimpressive man. Okay, so finally, looking at last Sunday's videos, Patricia Wask responded to something I said, and she's clarified. I clarified something, and she's clarified her position. It's probably too complicated to go into. Patricia and I know what we're talking about. So thank you very much for listening. And I will see you next Wednesday on Nigeria Unfiltered, or next Friday on Donu's Week, or next Sunday on Viewers' Voices. Keep sending those comments in. I appreciate your opinions. Bye.